special guest today, Tyler Clark,
Hi.
composer, and what else do you do? You do other things.
Yeah, I'm a composer, sound designer, master engineer. I don't do a lot of mixing. Even though I do mix my own music, but I am a mastering engineer by trade. So that's kind of what I do.
Cool, cool. So let's start. Let's start with how you got started in music, and then we'll take it from there.
So it's kind of funny. I kind of got started in music a while ago. My whole family kind of brought me up on music. It was funny actually. A lot of kids, when I was little, like my mom used to say, is like, "Oh yeah, kids used to listen to like lullabies and stuff to go to sleep." That didn't work for me. I couldn't listen to lullabies. So my mom used to play me like Enya, Enigma, Moby, a lot of chill music. So I
Mm.
grew up around like jazz, chill, and I grew up like a wide variety. I had quite the palette as a kid. I didn't really appreciate it till I got older how much different types of music I got into. But yeah, when I first got started, actually, was I've been composing for 10 years. I started at the age of 12. My chorus teacher in middle school showed us a program called Foundation, which is a web-based one. And then I just started going from there and I got hooked. And then I moved from program to program and ended up sticking with Logic Pro X for the past 4 years. So that's kind of my go-to right now.
Okay, so
That's how I got
you're
started.
that's interesting. So like I didn't really understand before I met you just how
Hmm.
much music had changed to where you have access to all of these sounds.
Oh yeah.
And all of these things. Like since I started talking with you, Facebook has been sending me ads for sample packs for audio like never before. Only since I've been talking to you, it's been sending me like, oh, here's anime voice actresses, like vocal packs, and here are these instruments, or here's jazz, or this saxophone plugin. So
I
like
get
I always
those
thought
ads.
you had to record all of this music.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because a lot of people when they look at DAWs and stuff, I just kind of want to point out when because I'm 12 years old. I have no money.
Yeah.
My mom wasn't about to go up and buy me a $300, $200 DAW. So I wasn't about to like because especially since I'm just learning and maybe this is like a
What's a
hobby.
DAW, if you don't mind?
Digital audio workstation. That's what it stands for.
Okay.
So like
Now
Fruity
I
Loops and
understand.
stuff. Yeah. So they're all DAWs, but Foundation, it was
Mm.
actually a click and drop, and it was sample based only. Weirdly enough, so it was only samples. There wasn't any actual physical composing using like MIDI or like writing on the program at the time. And then I actually moved from there to Audio Tool, and that's when I started to learn to actually compose. And I had a really small laptop, like the size. Let me grab this. Oh, I have my iPad right here. Not even joking. It's the size of this iPad, the screen.
Wow.
Um, it was the original, what is it? The Microsoft Surface Pro. I had the very first one. So I had the original Surface Pro, and that's what I used to compose on with Audio Tool. And then uh, later on, my dad got me Fruity Loops. I got the, I think, Producer's Edition. It came with most of the plugins and stuff. It wasn't the full signature bundle, but it
Mm.
was one of the higher end ones that was really good and came with what I needed. And
Wow.
I had to run that on this, and it crashed like all the time. Let me tell you, I'm used to like using really bad machines. This it couldn't handle anything, and then I kind of had a mix between it. But then I went to college and I went to Full Sail, and that's when I got into Logic, and I never looked back because I actually learned how to do traditional like handwriting because
Mm.
for I took basic music theory in high school, my one of my years, and then I took both advanced music theory. I took advanced music theory classes as well, which helped me a lot with composition. But we had to physically compose songs on paper and hand it to our teacher and be like, "Here you go!" Like,
Was
"Oh yeah,
that
this
at
is
full
we're gonna
scale?
transpose for
Or-
woodwinds or transpose for strings, transpose for." It's you had to transpose everything. It was crazy. It was fun though.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I
it's a lot to learn.
just looking at the stuff like the sheet music you sent me, like it looks so complicated to me, like the
Yeah.
different parts and everything. And I couldn't imagine writing it, like writing it on paper.
Yeah, and I
A whole
could
nother
write it on
level.
paper. It would take me longer. And I think that's the really nice thing because I use like I said, I use Logic. It can automatically transpose for you. within the program into not as well. I would still have to transpose some things for certain instruments, but I can at least take the MIDI and put it into score mode, and it will print out really nicely. So that's really nice. But
So,
still
so
some changes.
what's the biggest issue you've had since you started this whole career of yours?
Biggest issue, I think, well, for the last, I think, years finding work. I had a lot of things lined up, but then COVID kind of hit. I was in my master's degree, unfortunately. So I think that's kind of been one of my biggest issues. And I think overall, another big issue is I think trying to get out there. It's very difficult for people, especially composition is kind of an oversaturated market. It's actually a really small community, weirdly enough.
Really?
If you think about it, yeah, there's like professional composers. It's actually quite a small like community, but it's hard to get your foot in the door to be a composer. Most people who that I know that are professional composers as well actually start off with sound design, audio engineering, working in a studio, something along those lines. They didn't start with music, and it same happened with me. I didn't start with music. I started actually as a sound designer professionally.
Wow.
Yeah, because I did sample packs. That's what I did. I created sample packs, and that's what got my foot in the door. And then from there, I started working on video games, making sounds for them at school and stuff. Worked with students, worked on projects, did some voice acting, did all sorts of stuff. Then someone's like, "Hey, I heard your music. It sounds really good. Why don't you compose for me?" And I was like, "Sure." And then that's how I got in. So,
interesting. Yeah. What a great story. Seems like what gets me about you is you're always in a good mood. You're always positive. And it just seems like you just steamroll everything that comes along. Like, it's like if I ask you like, "Hey, I need this song composed." Like I wanted to talk about, we can start with Venom, right? Because it's the first one I asked you to do, right? Like, I sent you this reference, and I had no clue what was going to happen because I hadn't even heard anything you've done, So I thought I'd test myself and see what would happen. I didn't want anything to get in the way of what you would do. I just wanted to see, like, what your range was as a musician. And I hear this song, and I'm like, okay, he got all of like the instrumentals from the reference down pat. You know what I mean? Like he really captured that vibe. And I really do feel like I'm tripping right now. Like if you listen to the song, you really do feel like you got bit by a snake, You really do feel that,
I found that always interesting what you sent me. Yeah, God gets bit by a snake. Okay, what else?
That's all that happens. All you need to know is that, there's some kids running through the woods, there's snakes coming everywhere, someone gets bit, and that's all you need to
Yeah, that's all you need to know. Okay, no spoilers, got it.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Then you told me more, but obviously not for this.
yeah, I told you more after because I'm bad for that. I'll tell you no secrets, right? And then I'll go to the next person. I'll tell them everything you needed to know, because I wasn't paying attention or,
Yeah.
It's funny. But no, so then we did Venom, and that track came out really cool. I liked it. I really do. And I like it for what it needs to do. It really hit the mark. And then I had an issue that been going on. So I checked the date. We've been working on Through the Doubts and Fear since the beginning of October, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's like the longest it took us for any track. And so we started in October. We probably September, because the email says it was sent to me in October, which means it probably was like a few weeks before that I asked Brandon, Yeah. So we had the track, and I asked Brandon beforehand. I said, I want to do lyrics. Should we write the lyrics first or the music? And he said we should write the music first. And I said, well, every other song I've done lyrics first, and then he would just do the music after, to the vocals. Like we wouldn't even be recording to a song. You would just have to sing a cappella and hope for the best. So that's what I thought we were gonna do. So I wrote the lyrics, and so Brandon goes, okay, so do you want me to sing the song? And I told him I'd be more than happy for you to do it if you were a woman. And You know, I mean, I'm more than flattered by your offer. And he said, what do you mean? I said, it's clear by the lyrics the song is meant to be sung by a woman, you know? Somehow, in happenstance, we missed it as I was writing the song, you know? I just wrote a song from a woman's point of view, expecting it to be sung by a guy, and that didn't work out very well. So I had someone I wanted to sing the song, but they weren't available. So that put me in a bind. He wanted to go on Fiverr, but I was worried that the time could, like, I felt like if it was too rushed, she wouldn't be able to capture like the emotional parts of the song, you know? And so that worried me. And then that's when I ended up having Victoria do it because I'm friends with her mom, you know?
Yeah.
So she called me out of the blue just to say hi. And so I talked to her. She said Victoria was back from school and that she'd be available to do the song, you know? So she did it. And so I sent her the lyrics, I sent her the soundtrack, and she goes, okay, this is great. Do you have any sheet music? And I tell her, I said, why do you need sheet music? You're not playing an instrument, are you? And she goes, no, but that's the way we learn how to do it in school, you know? And I said, oh, well, that. So I just said, okay, I'll get right on it. So I called Brandon. He said, oh, I have a software that could do it. No problem. The next day, his computer dies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so yeah, this is when you said his computer died, right?
I woke up to a text message saying, hey, I'm so sorry. My Mac is turning on, but the screen's not showing anything. The next day. So I go on Fiverr and I start looking up composers and stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. And I said, this is what I need. I need you to take these lyrics of this song and make sheet music out of it, which is a real ridiculous task. You know, looking back on it, I don't think I would ever ask that again of anybody. So I ended up having to fire people for the first time because they accepted the job, but then they just never did anything, you know? So I was waiting for days and days, and then was on Facebook and they suggested your name to me. And I said, wow, Tyler Clark. I wonder if it's the same Tyler Clark I've been listening to the last 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I said, well, it doesn't hurt, right? So I just messaged you out of the blue on New Year's Eve, you know? And so then, you know, I asked what you could do, and you said you could do it. So I asked to do the first track. And then I thought we were going to be able to use the song itself to make the sheet music from. But when it was ran through the software, all the instruments were showing up on one sheet, you know? So it was like really rough. So I said, I'll have Tyler do a whole nother track for it. Yeah. He'd probably do it faster than the software could process this song, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I said, hey, I need your help with this. And then there, we got that out of the way. So we have 2 tracks that we collaborated on, and I'm really happy with how they performed, you know, like how they came out. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else to go from this, but I'm really impressed by your work. You know, I guess we can talk about my opinions of you now. How about that? So like, this would be good for you. Like I was really impressed with the speed that things got done. You know, like I think one day I asked to do something, the next day was like, I woke up to something in the morning, like the first minute and a half, and I was like, damn. So I'm listening to the track and it just ends. And I'm like, oh man, like what's gonna happen?
Oh, the last one for is this the second one?
I think it's Venom, right?
Venom, right. I did send you like a first clip of it.
Yeah, it's like 1 minute and 18 seconds. So I'm listening to it and I'm like, God, it just ends. And I listened to it on repeat, but it doesn't transition well.
Oh no, because it just stops halfway.
It just stops and then it repeats again. And it's like, damn. And so I had that. And then there were the other tracks we did in between to kind of get an idea of where to go.
Yeah.
And listen to those. And nothing was horrible. There was nothing horrible about it. It wasn't what I wanted for that particular moment in the story. You know what I mean? And so it's like, wow, this is really something I would meditate to. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, through the doubts and fears.
Yeah. Like I would really do that. This is really impressive, you know?
Yeah.
I was really happy about that because I'm not a classically trained musician, or I have 5 middle school semesters of music appreciation behind my belt. All I know is that music is a very difficult thing to define. That was like the core of the entire course, which I took 5 times. So like it'd be seasonal. If you took it in the fall, you'd get some Christmas stuff. If you took it in the spring, you'd get some other things. But basically, it was trying to define what music is and isn't, and if music could just be sound itself. It was really interesting. Like there was a lot of experimental tracks we listened to.
Avant-Garde is a complete music genre that's basically that. Experimental as well. I mean, you can technically. I've always found it interesting. I've seen people. Oh, hello. I've seen people make full songs like.
Hold on a second. My dog is stealing my football. Oh my god. He's acting up because I'm on. Get out of my room. Yeah. Get out of here. Sorry. Trying to find out where this banging noise is coming from. And he got so mad that I'm doing an interview that later. Sorry. My bad.
Is this gonna be edited? Sure, probably asked before.
Probably. My bad. Could be. I think people will laugh.
Oh.
My bad.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, I was gonna say was, but yeah, with like music and stuff, like with Avant-Garde, experimental, there's a lot of things like that people do, but I've seen people like take like just white noise and stuff, make music out of it. I'm trying to think, oscillators. I've seen people just like oscillator machines, just make music out of those. It's pretty interesting what you can do, and it's pretty awesome. So you can really make music out of anything, really.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I told you about Dripsody, the song.
Yeah, you did.
From like 300 microphones, recording one drop of water in one bucket, like repeated over and over again.
I actually made a song. No longer exists, sadly. I deleted it. It was one of the songs I deleted. One of the ones I really do, it's one of the very few I regret deleting. I kind of went through a phase in life where I kind of deleted all the stuff that had mainly samples because I wasn't composing. So it's kind of like, oh, this isn't real music. I didn't make this really. This is like all samples of music. And it's like, it was kind of that kind of mentality. Anyways, long story short, it was a song. I think it was called Drip. I think that was it. But it was, oh no, it was Droplets. That was the name of it, Droplets. And it was a single water drop sound, like one shot. It was just one single water drop sound, and I made a song out of it. And that was it. And it was an ambient track, and it was just, I made a pad out of it, added a lot of reverb, did a lot of different things with it, and went from there and just made an entire song out of literally water droplets. So I can't believe it.
That's interesting. We seem to have a good mind for composing, though. Like you jump in, like you cross genres very quickly too. It seems like you just have an idea of what music is, and you just go with it.
Yeah.
And like you did that. You showed me that song you made. It was like Cowboy Bebop song.
The jazz one I did for our project.
Right? And that's very different from what we've been working on. But it's
tribal.
really interesting. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of tribal stuff, which I enjoy for this project, because I never expected to be making music at all. It was supposed to be a book series, and then I was going to make a push to have the show based off the books. And somehow I got stuck making music for it because it's fun and I enjoy it, but also I can afford to do it, Yeah. And so I figured I could do it now because it's in my budget range with everything I have going on. And then I could just focus on everything else later, my plan is to do about 40 tracks, I think.
Oh, wow.
And, so I want to do about 40 tracks because what was I going to say? we have four. I think we have like 5, 6 now. I think we're up to 6. So it took about 6 months to get those, but I was only working with Brandon on only like part-time. So we get like one done a month, you know?
Yeah.
And I was working less too, so I had less money to pay him to do stuff, you know? But now I have you working too, and like you work like 8 times as fast. So,
I can get a track done a week.
Yeah, get a track done a week, like from raw concept to master, you know?
Yeah.
One day it's like, hey man, I'm gonna have that bounced out. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I usually, and that's why like usually, because I know for you, you were kind of like surprised when I did send you the first like demo, like couple of demo of Venom. Because like I always send everybody like a skeleton, and it's always gonna be very abrupt probably at the end. I try to maybe make it smooth out a little bit so it's not so abrupt, but it's to get the feel, the vibe. Then I kind of like to see where to go with it, and then once I have part of skeleton built, then I fully build the rest of the skeleton, go for the exact length, and then I finish the entire song there. And that usually takes me about a couple days to do, as long as people are communicative. Like couple days to like get back to me on stuff. I mean, it's gonna take a couple days, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like sometimes like people will take like I'll send them something and like I don't hear back until like 3 days later. So in the meantime, I'm not doing anything else. So I'm like, okay. And then it's like, yeah. So
I try to respond well, you know. It's such a thing, like, because if you're not working on my track, you could be working on someone else's track, you know, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to take up your time more. You know what I mean? Like I think there was a time where you were waiting to see what I would say or waiting for feedback on something. And I was like, oh, you were waiting for me to tell me what to do? You know what I mean?
Tell me what to do.
Well, sometimes if it's too technical, like if it's, what do you think about the drums? You know, it's like, well, what drums? Which ones? You know, like, what do you want me to tell you? Yeah. There's like 3 types of drums on this track. So what do you want? You want me to, you know, you think I should lower this? What do you think about the flutes or the strings? I have no clue. Like, you know, like, I don't have a clipboard with something for that. I know the general feeling of what I need and what I need that to do. And that's not to put people to sleep right away. You know? Like now I learned, like, since I've been working on this, I learned more about music and the different keys even.
Yeah.
So ask you said C minor 7 is your favorite key, right?
Oh, the jazz key. Yes. I love a C minor scale, but I love a C minor 7th scale because it's jazz. So it's like, that's why I write a lot in, especially if I'm doing like trip hop and stuff, you'll actually see me either write in G minor or C minor 7th, and I'll be using a lot of 7th chords throughout. So.
Okay. That's interesting. Like it's fun to learn about the different keys and how they affect the tone of a song. Like I just thought the sound notes just played on the piano. I didn't know they were divided in sections like that.
Yeah.
Like with the different keys and stuff. But it's fun to learn, like, because Brandon was trying to explain it to me last year and I just wasn't into it. Like I didn't really get what he was talking about. The way he was trying to explain it, he's like, this song's in C minor. And I was like, all right. And he goes, you sent me 3 references and they're all in C minor. How am I going to get chord progressions done that way? And I said, that has nothing to do with me. You can figure that, you know, like I mean, no clue.
That's where music theory comes into play. Cause it's like, oh yeah, you're in C minor, but I can go C minor. And then I can start with like a C minor chord, but then I'm like, okay, I could be playing in C minor, but then I could switch it up and easily go to like, maybe even like F major, or like or like go to like other different areas, or like start on like E flat or something. Like there's different ways you can kind of go about doing things. I know when I wrote Venom, it doesn't. I think Venom does, but I actually don't know. Through the Doubts and Fear, I didn't start on the 1 chord. I didn't start on that. I'm trying to remember. I think I wrote it in E minor, but I didn't start in E minor chord. I started, I think, in A. I know it was like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like the way I started it was very different. It wasn't the 1 chord or anything. So the way I structure things is very different, which I get that approach. I actually I studied a lot of like more people who've done like music for films and stuff, and that's kind of the approach I take. A lot, if you ever listen to a lot of film music, for example, John Williams, personally one of my biggest favorites.
For Star Wars, right? But I don't know
Yes,
what
Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Oh yeah, famous.
He's
So yeah, John Williams.
now, right? Didn't he retire?
I'm not too sure.
I thought he said the last Star Wars film was going to be his last one. I don't know if that was his last film ever or just.
I'm not too sure, but like one thing is, I was working on a project that was Star Wars related. Can't go too detailed, but long story short, when I actually submitted the demos, the director politely told me, he said, "Hey, this is too John Williams sounding," and I said, "Oh," because I thought he wanted me to like make it sound like John Williams. He's like, no, look at the Mandalorian. And I go, okay, and like it's very different to John Williams. You listen to Mandalorian's music, it's extremely different. So he wanted Mandalorian, but different. He said, look at Punisher now, and I was listening to Punisher's music, and I go, okay. So I kind of combined the three. Yeah, the Punisher show, yeah. So I kind of combined all three of those kind of music, and this is when I created the intro and outro for what I was working on, and it was this epic, like the strings were more John Williams, but the aggressiveness was more like the Punisher, but the actual vibe was more Mandalorian. There was a lot of like ominous tones in it. It was very dark, but it was also uplifting and adventurous at the same time, just really dark. And that's how I composed the whole song. And towards the end, I had actually electric guitar and stuff. I actually mixed a lot of rock, and then classical rock, and I think I did some electronic, like more like not dubstep, but like a lot more bass heavy, like electronic sounds. And that's kind of how I fused it together, and that's how I created the song. But yeah. And like I said, music theory helps with that. I mean, fun facts for anybody who watches this, if you want to know about Japanese scales. So there's something called a pentatonic scale, and that is a 5-note scale. So pentatonic C major, it would be C, D, E, F, G. Well, that's not actually a pentatonic Japanese scale, is very different. And I can't remember the top of my head. I think it's C, and I want to say it jumps to D sharp. I think it goes F, G, and then A sharp, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. But I was studying Japanese and actually Arabic scales for a whole year in 2019 because I was really into writing that kind of music. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a pentatonic scale, but it's entirely different notes. So a C major pentatonic Japanese scale does not sound the same as a C major scale.
So it's not a happy sounding one, or it's just very different?
It's not that. So like I said, so a C major pentatonic scale but in a Japanese one is going to sound very different than a regular C major. So it's not C, D, E, F, G. There's like 2 sharps or flats in it.
So, is that for specific instruments?
Yeah, actually, because if you listen to like a koto, for example, so like they play. Yep, that's a lot of these scales are based off of those, but Japanese scales are typically speaking pentatonic. I learned, and I was like, I didn't know that. So that's when I started to write more Japanese-based music, and I actually had to work on something that was focused on Japanese culture and music. And I was like, awesome. And I had that under my belt. And then and then I started working on another project one time, and they were like, yeah, we need flamenco and Greek. And I was like, how do I write that? And then I started learning how flamenco was written. And then actually when I was writing Venom, I didn't know that a lot of tribal music was in 12/8. I had to start writing in 12/8, which I haven't done in a long, long time. So everything is written in 12/8, which is interesting. So that's why you get the da 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 da. Instead of 1 2 3 4, it's 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. That's it's actually, and one bar is like 8 notes.
But if we wanted to do a variant of it, we could tweak that, right?
I mean, you could tweak it to 4/4. Some of the because what I used in Venom, for any of the audio nerds out there who probably know what I'll be saying, I used a lot of polyrhythms and then polyphonic tones at the same time. So a lot of things I was doing was polyrhythmic. So some things were offsetting. If I had to say one artist who's really good at polytones and also at polyrhythms is probably deadmau5 as an electronic artist, weirdly enough. if you listen to a lot of his music, a lot of his stuff has polyrhythm. I think 5-Pound Chicken Wing or 3-Pound Chicken Wing, I think is the name of the song. I can't remember, but it's like
Wait a minute, is that a person who makes music, or is that a menu item at a Chinese restaurant?
It's one of deadmau5's tracks.
I was gonna say.
He's like one of my biggest inspirations.
Isn't he great though? He's just a great entertainer, you know.
I saw him live. Oh my god.
I would have if the pandemic didn't hit, because he usually comes through like at least New York regularly, you know.
Yeah,
that's only 2 hours away, you know.
Yeah, he's definitely an artist that he's not only a really good artist and composer, but I have a lot of respect because he is capable of composing in any genre of music. I mean, he's done full orchestral music, like we're talking symphony orchestra, and I'm like, holy cow. And like the only other artist that I can kind of think of that's at that scale, and I can see him doing more in the future, is Apache, which he actually for the I think it was called Renaissance. I can't remember the albums. I'm bad with names, and I apologize if any of you guys watch this. I'm so bad with names, but one of his albums he did, and like I had a chuckle. I was like, they did the behind the scenes documentary, and it was awesome. They had a whole orchestra they sampled for the album, and I was just like, what? That, which is so cool. And it's like, and that's what like people that inspire me to do that. And then it's a whole other animal. People don't realize when you go from in the box to real life orchestra, it's a whole different world. So it's very interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Someone told me that deadmau5 didn't have that kind of skill. And I was a little confused because he did a whole master class, deadmau5.
He is one of the greatest electronic artists of all time. And to give it, I don't use that lightly, being an electronic artist myself, because that's what I started off with. And there's a lot of people I think are great. Shout out to like people like if you start thinking about artists and like you ask someone, who's the greatest electronic artist? Some people are probably gonna say like Martin Garrix, or some people might say like different artists and stuff, like, or like I don't know, like you could say Armin van Buuren. The difference between everybody in deadmau5 is that deadmau5 is capable of doing any genre of music. This guy though, he is, I'm trying to think of the right word. He has a lot of knowledge. He actually knows a lot. From an engineering standpoint, he is amazing. I mean, some of the sounds he created, he shaped some of our industry. Like some of the sounds that you hear, especially nowadays with more progressive house music, is because of him. Like he created some of those sounds. He basically, I would say deadmau5 is probably one of the greatest also composers, because the guy is capable of doing so many genres of music. I mean, again, he composed to an entire orchestra. He's done contemporary music. One of his albums had multiple contemporary songs. I actually took a look at some of his music, and just from reading it, I was just going, this is way over my head. And I actually didn't know what polyrhythm was until I started studying his music, and I was like, okay. And it's like, and I think when you listen to it, a lot of people go, oh, that's simple. It sounds basic, which I think that idea is what it is. But when you actually look into what he created, it's so complex. A lot of people sometimes have a hard time like understanding it. And it's just because it's between being someone who's an engineer and also a creative artist at the same time. So they have both brains working, and that's how he's capable of doing that. So that's why I'm like, that's interesting. Somebody would say that, because I'm like, he's someone I would definitely look up to a lot. But
the first track I listened to by him that I really got into was the one he did for the James Bond game. I remember.
Oh, I remember. Yes.
It's like 9 minutes long. You know?
That's the one with Cascade, wasn't it? No.
Yeah.
Yes.
They did it together, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, actually, the first Dead track I got into, it was funny. My grandmother, long story short, my grandmother, I was at the when FYE was still at the Salem Mall in New Hampshire. My grandmother and I were there, and I was checking out the CD, and my grandmother was like, "Oh, what are you listening to?" And I go, "Oh, this artist named Dead 5." I didn't know how to pronounce his name at the time. I was little. I was I think 13, maybe. I think I was. It was around the same time I started music, or it might have been a year prior. But his first album I got was 4 times 4 equals 12, and my grandmother bought it to me, and my mom. I put it on for my mom at home. I'm like, oh, check out this artist. My grandma got this for me. She's like, oh, that's awesome. She hears One Trick Pony and Sophie Needs a Ladder, and she's like, why'd you get this for my son?
Yeah. So
my mom wouldn't allow explicit music in the house.
Sophie Needs a Ladder. That's not really my favorite one. Sophie Needs a Ladder. It's okay, but I like Raise Your Weapon.
I think that's everyone. That's 100% a fan favorite. For me, I like One Trick Pony a lot, but my favorite my favorite from the 4 times 4 equals 12 album is actually between 3 songs. That's actually gonna have to definitely be One Trick Pony, City in Florida, and then I probably would say I Said. And I think those are kind of like my 3 that I really enjoy a lot.
I'll have to look those up. I haven't heard any of. I know my favorite one. One of my favorites is Stay, Drop the Pop Tart. You know, you ever heard that one?
I haven't recently listened to his new stuff, so.
Oh, that's from I think 2014. I think. So I guess that's newer.
Wait. Drop the Pop
on my phone. I got it. I'll send it to you after.
Just send it to me because I may have heard it. I'm bad with names. I'm just trying to think.
Oh, and he did the Velt. Have you heard the Velt?
Yes,
the Velt
is good.
That's a great track. He did.
I was gonna say, well, he had that whole kind of experimental one. It might have been the Imaginary Friends album, but there was like the one that took a lot of inspiration from like the 80s and stuff. And I found it was very interesting. Interesting. Which I got like I'm trying to think. I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. Famous artist, but who did like bunch of stuff. But Kraftwerk. It gave me a lot of Kraftwerk vibes, which was very weird. Like especially modern day like electronic, you don't hear people do Kraftwerk stuff that much. Or at least famous artists, because it's not as popular, I would say, as in the I probably say the electronic culture. But when I heard that album, I got some weird Kraftwerk vibes with some of the tracks, and I was like, okay then. But
interesting.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. All right, well, we're about the 45-minute mark, so it's time to wrap it up. Is there any last words you'd like to say to anybody?
Well, I mean, pursue your dreams, I guess.
Oh, good.
I'm not great at last words.
You got a website, right?
Yeah. Devlin Sound.
Devlin Sound is your website, and then you're on Facebook is what now? Is that Devlin Sound as well?
Yeah, Devlin Sound. It's devlinsound.com. It's also Devlin Sound on Facebook. It's all one word. You can also just find me on Facebook. Just search Tyler Clark. You'll probably be able to find me there. But yeah, and I mean, if anything, if people like want to learn to like create music and stuff, I actually been doing teaching, so one-on-one sessions. If anyone's ever interested in that, I'd be more than happy to teach them. There's a lot that you can learn, but just saying, one of the greatest tools that anyone could ever use that wants to learn music theory is called musictheory.net. It's free, it's great, and it has everything you need to know. Until you don't, which happened to me a little bit, because I don't think they go into Japanese scales. I haven't been on it in a while, but there's some theory that they don't go into, and that's stuff that's kind of very specific. Like I said, an Arabic scale. The reason I actually started to learn Arabic scales is because Arabic scales mainly with sitars, and I wanted to learn how to write sitar. So sitar is an entirely different language than regular music. You can't write normal. You can write normal music, but it's harder to play the sitar reading, I think, from regular sheet music. So I wanted to learn how to write traditional sitar sheet music versus regular. But yeah, and that's because the artist called Theory Corporation that got me really into like wanting to learn how to write sitar. So yeah,
that's pretty interesting. You definitely have large blocks of knowledge, and we'll be more than happy to have you on again. You know, especially if things go on in the music world. You know, who knows? Maybe we'll ask you some questions about Spotify next time. You know,
Spotify. Oh boy,
what do you
want to know about that?
We'll get industrial next time.
get into industrial music, industrial hardcore.
Right?
Extra tone. Get some extra tone. Oh gosh, I would have to have you do a disclaimer first and be like, sorry everyone, please bear with us as we completely destroy your ears for the next 5 minutes in extra tone. No, like funny. Extra tone. All right, I'm actually leaving one thing. If you want to know, there are a couple of genres of music I absolutely despise writing, and there's 3 specifically. Now, I'll write future bass for you. That's not a problem. It's not my particular cup of tea to write. I don't really enjoy writing it. I think I kind of bland. The name of Tropical House, I find both of them kind of bland to write, but I'll write them anyways. But extra tone, I'll never do, because it is just a genre of music that I go, it's so fast, my DAW actually can't go to the BPM as to what some people have their BPM set to for extra tone. It's just, it's inaudibly fast, and it doesn't sound that great. The other one I probably would say is easily, I think the only other genre of music that actually, I guess there's only 2. I thought there was 3. Only really 2 is honestly Avant-Garde. Just because for me to write Avant-Garde, I would have to get rid of all my basic principles and knowledge on theory, music, and everything in general, shove it out the window. So the only way you're gonna get me writing Avant-Garde is if I am smashed, like hammered drunk. That's the only way, because my brain won't be going, all right, we put all these together. Like I have to be completely out of it to do Avant-Garde. I physically can't write Avant-Garde. I actually tried once, and I just can't, because my brain can't go, this should be going here and here. And it's like trying to fix the song. And it's like, now it sounds like a song, not Avant-Garde. And it's like,
you're too ingrained in doing things the right way. You're not a rebel.
There are some rules, and they should be followed, and I respect that. And then once you learn those rules, you can break them. I do it all the time.
This is good. All right. Well, I hope everyone had a good time and learned something. We'll have them on again. Thank you.